Hey guys, so this is the beginning of the fourth installment of the TBR job log. Um, I'm not sure I pulled all these at my TBR job in the video, but they are all in the TBR because they're unread on my shelves, so I'll have to go and find those when I actually get to my old house, because I could only bring a certain number with me at the minute. So I'm going to go through the next three on the list. So obviously I've just finished Eclipse, so the second short life of Britannia is up next. This is like 175-ish pages, so it won't take me long to get through this. I can tick that off. And then I'm moving on to finishing off the Sirena Legacy with of Triton and of Neptune. Neither of these are very long. This one's 250 pages, this one's 375. Obviously, fantasy romance involving mermaids. I really enjoyed Of Poseidon. Really liked Emma and is it Galen or Galen? I'm gonna go Galen. And Galen and their sort of love-hate relationship at first. Excited to see how that develops, especially with the reveal in the first book that Emma is a Sirena and she's trying to access her abilities and Sirena form. Excited to see those things develop, as well as the internal politics of the Sirena, because there are two big houses. So I'm excited to get back into this. I do have the audiobooks as well as physical copies, so I can't wait to get into that. Obviously, with Britannia being so short, I'm just going to read it and I'll update you afterwards. And then probably with these two, because they are quite fast paced and both pretty short, maybe like halfway in at the end, unless something's really going on that I want to discuss. But yeah, I'll check back in with you in a bit and we'll see how we get on. So I'm about halfway through the second short life of Britannia. Obviously this is a novella in between Eclipse and Breaking Dawn in the Twilight series, and following a very minor character who's one of the newborns in Victoria's army. When we first meet Brie at the end of Eclipse, she seems very out of control, very bloodthirsty, very much what a newborn vampire is. Unlike her movie counterpart that comes across as quite shy, quite placid, and in control. But in here, we can see that Brie does have a lot of self-control, even at 3 months old. Because when two other newborns kill a human, despite being thirsty, Brie chooses to walk away because she knows if she engages with these two vampires over the kill, she will lose. Which takes a lot of self-control, as we've seen with the vampires, the newborns especially run on instinct. And she gets befriended by Diego, who is nearly a year old, so he won't be classed as a newborn vampire for much longer. They're only classed as newborns for the first year. Obviously we know Riley is older than Diego and works directly under Victoria. But these vampires aren't told anything. They don't know why they're being created, why they're being housed together, and what they are really. They know they're vampires, but they think more like the traditional movie vampire, like they'll burn in the sun, and things like that. And it's Diego who learns that the sun doesn't do anything to them really, apart from make them sparkle like fucking disco balls. And he shows Bree, and she's like, oh, she's immediately concerned that Riley has been lying to them. But Diego is friends with Riley, so he doesn't want to believe the worst of his friend. So they decide to follow him one night, and he meets with Victoria. They don't know who Victoria is, they just refer to her as her or she. But Bree recognises the voice from when she was changed. And she's discussing the upcoming battle with Riley, but not making any decisions, obviously, to avoid Alice's visions. When a few members of the Volturi arrive, and obviously one is described as being a lot smaller, and we can assume this is Jane. Jane basically approaches Victoria and says, look, we know what you're doing, you're creating a newborn army, but because you're going after the Cullens and the human with them, Bella, who obviously irritated the shit out of Jane by being immune to her power, she basically says, look, we'll give you 5 days. Go kill all the Cullens, kill this human, and we'll see what happens, basically. She doesn't give her a free pass. Like, she doesn't say, oh, we won't kill you, because they probably would, knowing the Volturi, but, you know, Victoria's got a skill of her own that might come in useful. But yeah, so that happens, and Victoria's like, okay, well, I'm not going to fuck with the Volturi, so we've got 5 days. So obviously from now on, it's going to be leading up to the battle. But Diego has gone to speak with Riley and hasn't come back yet, and neither is Riley, and Bree is worried that something has happened to Diego. Although one character I would like to have seen more of is Fred. Fred has a gift, pretty strong gift, to repel people. Like, literally, when he uses his power to full effect, he takes a room of newborn vampires to their fucking knees with disgust. Like, he can literally inspire so much disgust and revulsion in people for him that they will leave him alone. But through Bree, who often hides behind Fred because no one bothers with Fred, she realises that even though the other vampires know she's there, it's almost like they can't focus on her, that their eyes kind of like skip over her, which I think is part of Fred's ability as well. So he would have been an interesting character to follow, especially being that he is very much seen and not heard. So yeah, I remember reading this a long time ago, but I can't remember too much what happened. So can't wait to see what happens in the battle from Bree's perspective, because we don't see it in a clips from Bella's. So this is probably going to fill out the gap before we move on to Breaking Dawn and the whole showdown with the Volturi. So I'll check back in with you when I've finished. So I just finished the second short life of Brie Tanner. The second half was actually pretty interesting as Brie kind of slowly puts things together. And by the time the battle takes place, she realizes that the night Diego didn't come home, Riley actually killed him, and that he must have gone through some insane torture to betray Brie. And the way she talks about Diego, especially the way she feels about him, makes me think that Brie and Diego were mates. Because when she realizes he's dead, she basically said the world's not worth living in. And we see the battle from her perspective and her surrender when she realizes there's no winning. And as the battle ends and she overhears the Cullens and Volturi talking, she realizes the vampire world is filled with a lot more politics and underhanded maneuvers than Riley taught them. The only thing that is good about this is Fred doesn't actually go to the battle. Fred leaves beforehand, and he basically says to Brie, if you and Diego want to escape with me, meet me here, but you'll only wait a day before leaving. And some of Brie's last thoughts are about Fred and how she's happy that he will get to explore the world, but she's upset that she can't tell him all this information she's learned, but she knows that he's smart and resourceful and he will look after himself. And because she knows he's a mind reader about the Cullens, she basically asks, she doesn't know she's addressing Edward, but she basically asks that if they do come across Fred, to treat him kindly. And then obviously Felix does his thing. So yeah, even though Brie wasn't a very important side character in Eclipse, whose story does explain why Riley was so devoted to Victoria, the situation with the newborns from behind the scenes, and how bloodthirsty Victoria actually was. It's not portrayed that well in the movie or in Eclipse, but here, especially when Brie has a memory of her turning, she remembers Victoria saying how she's tried multiple times and has just ended up killing the humans. And that when it comes to Brie's turn, she, in Victoria in her own words, is so full of blood that she can't imagine killing Brie, basically. So, and we also know with Jasper and Carlisle, and they've talked about it, the thirst is almost ever present. So for Victoria to have fed enough to not have that thirst makes you question how many people she killed before she turned Brie. And there's over 20 newborns. So if she had to kill 10 people to successfully change one, for these 20 newborns, she has killed 100 people, which is crazy to think about. We also see the Volturi as more underhanded and more devious, especially Jane, making a deal with Victoria in order to kill the Cullens and Bella. And obviously, knowing the Volturi, they wouldn't have gone through with that deal. They would have allowed Victoria and the newborns to kill the Cullens and then cleaned up the mess afterwards and taken all the credit for it. And I'm curious to see if Fred ever pops up again. He might be one of the nomads that we see in Breaking Dawn, because there are quite a few nomads that turn up. Or he could appear somewhere in Midnight Sun or in any subsequent books, but I would like to see more of Fred. He is a very interesting character. Obviously, I leave a couple of months between reading these books because they can be an emotional drain at times, so I won't be getting to Breaking Dawn probably till around the new year, and then Midnight Sun in the spring. So that's that one done. I am going on next to finishing the Sirena trilogy. So I'm getting into that now, and I'll probably update you when something interesting happens. Hey guys, excuse the freshly bathed wet hair. I couldn't film a time-lapse part for my first quarter of Triton because I was in the bath. So this book is only about 250 pages long, and I'm currently 60 pages in, so I'm about a quarter of the way through. And it definitely starts off strong. Like we get a lot of revelations at the end of the first book about Emma being half Sirena, half human, which are outlawed in the Sirena community. Half-breeds are put to death. And that her mother is Nalia, the Triton princess. The Poseidon princess that we're missing. Obviously, there's two main houses in the Sirena kingdom. There are the Triton house, which Galen, Rhaena, and Brom are from, and then House Poseidon. So obviously, in the first book, we learned that Nalia and Grom were to be mated when Nalia died. And we soon learned that the explosion was an accident, and that Grom thought Nalia died in the explosion, and Nalia thought Grom died because they couldn't feel their connection to each other, their bond. So Nalia, rather than being remated to someone else, escaped onto land, where she tried to earn a living with virtually no understanding. Bearing in mind, Nalia left the Sirena community during the Second World War, so times were very tough. And she ends up meeting Emma's father, who figures out she's not human, and they basically come to an arrangement. And despite Emma's belief that they were in love, her mother's like, actually, no, I never loved him, and you were the result of a moment of weakness on her mother's part, which is devastating to Emma. When Nalia and Grom are reunited and that bond is rekindled, Emma's dealing with a lot of feelings, especially in regards to her father, who she loved very much and who loved her very much. But now they've got a problem. Nalia needs to go back because she is Sirena. She's not meant to be on land. But they have two main problems. Grom remated to Paka, who they now know is a fraud, but they have to go through a process to get that mating broken. If it is rejected, the next person in line to be mated to Nalia is Galen. But Galen wants to take Emma as his mate, but Sirena laws mean that Emma can't exist. So they've decided for now to keep Emma's existence as a half-breed a secret and go back with Nalia, straighten that whole mess out, get Nalia mated to Grom, so that Galen doesn't have that responsibility. And if that is accepted by the Sirena community, then they will bring Emma in. But Emma, as Galen knows, is having a lot of conflicting feelings, especially about Grom. She's not sure about him. She has a loyalty to her human father, but she also won't stand in the way of her mother being happy. So big emotions going on right now. Don't know why this book is so short. The first book was about 300 pages. The second one is like, the last one is like 325, but this one's only 250. So I don't know whether Anna Banks made the conscious choice to make this book shorter because it is bridging the gap between the first book and this book, or whether this one's going to end on like a major cliffhanger for the finale. But I am excited to find out. So because it's so short, I'll probably check in again about the halfway mark, and then depending on how quickly the second half goes, 3/4 and then the end, or maybe just at the end. But I'll update you in a bit. It's been a while since I've updated you, close to like 3 weeks, because I've been moving house, as you can probably tell from different background, different room, and I've just had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, so we're back. November has been quite a not great reading month for me. If you know from one of my earlier videos, this is one of the kittens I mentioned. No longer a kitten, but this is Tigger. Hi Tig. Hi Tig. November hasn't been a great reading month for me. I think at the minute, it's the last day of November, I've read 3 books. I have blocked off the 2nd of December. There is a sequel, so in the next 2 days, I have to read 2 whole books. So, and the book we're starting with is Frozen Hearts and Death Magic by Dave Lytle. This is book 1 in the Fire and Fae series. I don't really know too much about it, and I didn't want to, other than we're following a princess called Naia who has iron magic, and she comes across a white fae that is injured. Now the fae have been thought to have been wiped out, and angsty romance ensues. But I am on the blog tour for Iron Hearts and Dragon Magic, which is the 2nd book, so we are going to be jumping into this one very soon. I don't know whether I'm going to finish off Triton first, being as I'm nearly halfway through that, and it's only at 250 pages, so it's only like 100 odd pages to finish that, or whether I jump straight into this one and try and get this potentially finished tonight or early tomorrow. But I will keep you updated. Hey guys, so I neglected to give you an update. It's way later, it's now the 26th of December. Changed location again, I'm at my mum's house for Christmas. I did finish Frozen Hearts and Death Magic. I really enjoyed it. It set the sequel really nicely. I haven't got to Iron Hearts and Dragon Magic yet, but it will be one of the first books on my TBR for 2023. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4.75 stars. It was really good. The only 2 things I didn't like about it, it was very insta-lovey in the romances, and especially between Fel and Leah. there is a lot of miscommunication and a lot of the conflicts between them could have been solved if they actually talked to each other. So yeah, and December has been a crappy reading month for me. Like, I don't think I've finished one book in December yet. I'm going to change that with this. I'm finally going to finish Of Triton. I've been reading this forever. I think the last time I updated you I was at the halfway mark, and now at the 3/4 mark I've got like 50 pages left. So I'm definitely going to finish this today. So update for this. Emma was left on land by the others with Rhaena while they went back to the Serena Kingdom to try and sort out Nelia's identity. And that hasn't been going well. There's been a really long tribunal going on, back and forth. Jagan and his followers, called the Loyals, are trying to bring down the royal families. Is a chaotic mess. But Torov seemingly turns traitor and reveals the existence of a half-breed to Jagan and offers to bring her to them. He goes and gets Emma and explains to Emma what he's done. And Emma's like, let's go fix this. So they go, and Emma reveals that she has the gift of Poseidon by controlling all sorts of beasties. And even though Jagan tries to talk circles around them, Emma's having none of it. She picks a random Sirena from the audience and is like, pick 2 of these sharks and I will tell them to attack Jagan, and if Parker truly has the gift of Poseidon, she can stop them. And that all comes crashing down around Jagan's ears. But during this, Emma is attacked by Jagan, and it is revealed that Rhaena and Galen share the gift of Triton, being twins. So Rhaena has the vocal element of it, which can produce like sonic waves with her voice, and Galen has the increased speed, which makes sense being as his fin has been growing over the course of this book, which isn't normal for Serena. So Rhaena and Galen share the gift of Triton. Emma has the gift of Poseidon. This is very good for the Serena Kingdoms because the gifts haven't been seen in many generations. However, Emma is a half-breed and by their law should be put to death. So I don't know what's going to happen in this, but I have a feeling something's going to go down to set up the 3rd book of Neptune. But I have no idea. I don't know whether Neptune's going to be another royal house. It's kind of going extinct because the books so far are named after the houses. Poseidon being the 1st book, Triton being the 2nd. So, failing that, they're all gods of the sea, which makes sense. But after I finish this, I don't have many books at my mum's. I brought a few on my Kindle, but I think I'm either going to read the new series by Sylvain Nouvel. What's the first one called? A History of What Came Next. And I have until the last of Maison. They're pretty short. Or I'm going to read The Bone Spindle. Hi baby. That's my cat if you can hear him. So yeah, I'll give you an update once I finish this. So I just finished Of Triton. The ending was interesting because we do lose a major character, which obviously hits Galen and Emma pretty hard. But on the upside, they have gained approval to be together and for Nalia and Grom to be mated. The royals also have permission to visit Emma on land whenever they want. because Emma, being a half-breed, doesn't have a Sirena form, even though she has Sirena gifts. Um, I'm not sure how I'm going to rate this one. I think I give the first book 4 stars. Um, but because I've been in like a major reading slump recently, this has taken me like a month to get through, and it's 250 pages long, which is abysmal for me anyway. So I'm probably going to give it 3 stars. Like, I liked it, but there were some pacing issues because it's so short. Like, honestly, I would have just broken this up and added half onto the first book and half onto the last book, because it really feels like filler. But there are pacing issues with it. Like, the reunion between Grom and Leah goes by so fast. It should have been given more depth as well as the history, but I am excited to see how the series ends. So I will hopefully be getting to that very soon. But yeah, I think the next book on the list is going to be A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel. And I'll keep you updated for that.